That's what I wish for you. The joy that comes from all you got out of this university education, to develop your mind and to enjoy what is special and unique about you. Keep in mind, with 3 billion genomes in a body, even 1/10 of 1% is a pretty healthy number. But I also wish the peace of mind and the strength of character and the rootedness that comes from remembering what you have in common with others. The other night I was in New York City having dinner with a bunch of friends of mine, and I looked up, and about 2 tables over from me was Rush Limbaugh. And I went over and shook his hand, first time I ever had seen him. Had a little visit with him, and I was so tempted, after all the terrible things he said about me, to tell him that he and I were exactly 99.9%. I thought if I do that, the poor man will run weeping from the room and never even get his dessert. So I let it go. Next month, I will make my annual pilgrimage to Africa to see the work we're doing in AIDS and development, and to share the birthday, the 89th birthday of my friend Nelson Mandela. When I look at him, I can't imagine that we're 99.9% the same. Because even though we're friends, I hold him in such awe. I say that to all of you to remember that if you put us together from greatest to least on this earth, you can hardly stick a straw between any of us. And I think you will find your greatest power, whatever it is you do for a living, if you take some time to serve, and if you always work on trying to balance the enjoyment of your differences, including vigorous arguments, with the centering power of your common humanity. It is the single most significant thing that you have to do. If you look at the troubles in the Middle East, if you look at how the Shia and the Sunni kill each other in Iraq, if you look at the way the Taliban oppress women in Afghanistan, if you look at the miseries of Darfur, if you look at people walking away from the realities of climate change, you name any problem in the world, the people driving the division without exception believe that what is special about them and their power and their money and their position is more important than their common humanity or their obligations to the next generation of humanity still to come. That is the fundamental question every single person must answer, as old as humanity, to make the most of this modern age. The Torah says that he who turns aside a stranger might as well turn aside from the Most High God. The Quran says that Allah put different people on earth, not that they might despise one another, but that they might know one another and learn from one another. The Christian New Testament says, next to the commandment to love God, the second, most important one is, quote, like unto it, to love your neighbor as yourself. And the Dhammapada, the Buddha says that you're not really human unless you feel the arrow piercing another's skin as if it had pierced your own. So it turns out all that ancient wisdom gets confirmed when they sequence the human genome and find out that all of our differences amount to 1/10 of 1% of our makeup. And that we really can't do anything alone. In South Africa, where Mandela and I started a biracial youth service program like AmeriCorps in America, that works in the townships. The kids adopted as their motto the Xhosa term Ubuntu, which means, roughly translated into English, I am because you are. If we cannot meaningfully exist without one another, then by definition what we have in common is more important than our differences. Now, I think all of you should think about that as you leave. I think nobody in this graduation class has a racist bone in your body. You don't have an elitist bone in your body either. I could tell that the way you clapped with the ground staff that put the chairs up. That meant a lot to me. But you have gifts. And it is very important that we make the most of our gifts without falling too much in love with them. North of Mandela's home in the central highlands of Africa, where we also work with our AIDS work, there's a fascinating tradition of greeting where nearly nobody rides anywhere. They all walk, and when people meet each other on a path, the first person will say hello, how are you, good morning. But the answer is not I'm fine. The answer translated into English is I see you. Think of that. Think of all the people in this world today who will not be seen. The reason I was so happy to be clapped at the ground steps is that every place there's a commencement exercise in America today, we'll all get up and leave here, and somebody will have to come in and clean up after us. They'll have to fold up the chairs and clean off the litter. In some places, the sod will be torn up and it'll have to be resodded. And enormous numbers of the people who do that work feel like they are never seen. I wish you the most of the modern world. I ask you to serve in some way. And I ask that your service and your politics, whether you consider yourself conservative or liberal, Republican, Democrat, or independent, always be rooted in the unifying humility which Abraham Lincoln exhibited when he said we must proceed with malice toward none. The only way you can give up your malice, your anger, your division is if you believe that our common humanity is more important than our interesting differences. That I am because you are. And if you see your fellow human beings, all of them, if you do that, your grandchildren will be here 50 years from now. And you will live by a long stretch in the most fascinating time the world has ever known. Good luck, and God bless you all.